Hello everybody, my name's Rhiannon and I've just finished my third year of a psychology degree at the Uni of York. Today I'm here to bring you some food shopping tips which are going to be really important for anyone going to uni this year or who already is at uni and just could do with some extra tips. The main focus of this video is going to be discussing how I keep costs down, any tips I have and how much you can expect to spend on food or drink within a reasonable budget whilst you're at uni. So my food shops typically come to under £20, sometimes over, and they tend to last me just over a week. So I personally think I keep my food shops quite cheap. So hopefully I can share some great advice with you lot. I shop at Lidl, which is actually my closest supermarket, but it is probably one of the cheaper ones as well, which is most of the reason why I'm able to keep my food shop so cheap. So if that is accessible to you, I would completely recommend. And if there's stuff you can't get in Lidl or Aldi, there's no reason you can't go and get it at another shop, but buy the things you can get in every shop at the place where it's going to be cheaper. So the main way I keep my food shop costs down is by having a plan and a shopping list. If you don't have a plan and a shopping list, you will go into the shop and buy loads of random stuff that you don't need, and it will be really expensive and you might not even eat it all and you might end up just wasting loads of food. I tend to make my shopping lists revolve around meals. I will think of 3 recipes each week that I'd like to cook. I always make enough for 2 portions, so that covers 6 meals. Find these recipes usually on TikTok or in recipe books or things that I've done in the past that I've liked, and I will buy all the ingredients that I need for those. I try to do recipes where I can use ingredients for multiple recipes so that I'm buying less stuff overall. My shopping lists tend to only consist of the fresh stuff I need for those meals, and then I'll top up on things like juice and bread. So the first thing I sort of do when I'm deciding what to make for that week is I write down the days in the week and just like work out what days I have plans where I might need to have an earlier tea or a late lunch or whatever if I'm working or if I've got plans, etc. Then kind of get a sense of how many meals I'll have and what sort of time constraints I'll be under. And then I have a flick through recipe books, Instagram, and think of some meals that I fancy for that week. So here I've got my meals. So I fancied some avocado and egg on toast because I actually managed to find some nice bread in the reduced section that I've frozen. I wanted to make loads of veggie burgers because I've got loads and loads of beans and pulses that probably need eating. I wanted to make feta and tomato pasta because that's nice and easy, and I have a few nights where I'm going to need a quick meal. And then I found some paste pots, so I have decided to do a curry and some falafels in the freezer as well that probably need eating before I move out. So I thought I would do some salads and wraps and stuff for lunch. And then a lot of the time I will take a screenshot or post a link to the recipe just so I don't lose it. I'll look through the ingredients to these recipes and write down what I don't already have for these recipes, and I tend to base recipes off of things that I sort of already have in the house just to make it easier and cut down on the amount of things I need to buy. If I scroll up, I've got my food shop, so I've written down everything I don't already have, things that I've run out of, and I've put them in sections so that when I go around the supermarket it's nice and quick. So the entire shop came to £15.45, and then this here is everything that I got. So I got some spinach to go in the freezer, some basil, salad leaves. I got 3 loose pears as I probably wouldn't have eaten a whole pack, an aubergine, an avocado, pita breads, and whatever I don't eat of those will just go in the freezer. We've got onions, same again with the freezer, 6 eggs, orange juice, cannellini beans, 2 tins of tomatoes. We've got feta because the feta was more expensive, I'm sure it'll taste the same, halloumi and cherry tomatoes. I also think it's really useful before you come to uni to think of some meals that you can make really easily without a lot of fresh stuff in or with leftovers. So things like this could be soup, stir fry, tomato pasta sauce for those sorts of nights where you don't really have anything fresh in. Another way that I keep food costs down is by making use of my leftovers and reducing my food waste as much as possible. So one way I do this is when I'm making my shopping lists and I know that I'm not going to use all of the ingredient that is needed for that recipe, I think of other ways that I can use up that ingredient. So is there another recipe that I can make that also uses it to finish it off, or can I freeze it? For example, if I have loads of onions that are about to go off, I chop them up and freeze them and then they're saved and I don't have to buy onions in my next shop. A lot of leftovers from meals I can make into a lunch as well. If there's leftover vegetables, I can probably turn it into a salad of some description. And this usually tides me over to my next shop because although I'll usually only plan for 6 meals a week, it will usually last me about 10 days because the leftovers otherwise I'll be able to think of other things to do with them. And I've sort of already touched on this, but another way to keep costs down is to make use of your freezer. It is your best friend. So if there's something you eat or you just use regularly, it might be worth investing in a sort of frozen version of it. So for example, frozen onions. You can buy stir-fry mixes, you can buy balls of spinach rather than buying it fresh every single week, and it will last you months and months in your freezer. Sort of similar to this as well, if you use garlic and chili a lot, instead of buying it fresh every time a recipe says to use it, it could be useful to buy like jars of lazy garlic, jars of lazy chili, and loads of veg can be frozen as well. So just if you've got stuff left that you don't know how to use, just Google how can I freeze this and how can it be used when it's frozen. And then when it comes to actually going to the shop, the best way I don't overspend is by taking cash. I always have my card on me just in case, but I try and stick to cash. So I'll usually take about £25 in cash, but aim to keep it under 20. If I'm being really stingy, I will take £20. As I go around the shop, I will look at the price of everything and I will just add it in my calculator so I know how much I'm on. And sometimes I go over and I'm like, right, is there something here that I can put back that I don't need? And that just forces me to prioritise and not buy things I don't need and save money at the end of the day. I also tend to look at value for money. If it's something that I'm going to eat a lot of anyway, I make sure I look at all the different varieties of that same product. So for example, tomatoes, there were loads and loads of different ones. Some are a lot more expensive than others. I found the two sort of cheapest ones. One was like 10p more expensive, but when you actually look at the value for money, the weight, like the cost per kilo, you can see which one you're getting more for your money with. So I always go for the one that's better value in that case because I'm going to use it anyway. And then often there'll be a nice version of something and then a standard version and a value version, and it's generally not that different to get the value version or at least the middle range version. I would always just cut out the unnecessary costs and get the cheaper version of whatever that is. Another one, which is a bit of a controversial one, I would say don't buy into a deal unless you're already going to buy that item anyway or you know absolutely that you will use it. A lot of the time, like juice will be on offer and I'll be like, oh, juice, I'm going to buy juice anyway, I'm going to drink juice anyway, so I'll buy loads of juice, but because it goes off quickly, I'll just drink it at twice the speed. So I'm just spending money that I wouldn't have spent anyway because I wouldn't have drank that juice unless I had it. The way that I save a lot of money, and this is a personal choice, but I don't eat meat, so meat is really expensive, I've noticed. And I walk down the aisle and I'm like, wow, I'm glad I'm not spending this money. So even cutting out like a tiny bit of meat, even from one meal a week, will save you a lot of money. And I found being veggie is just so much cheaper and the food goes off less quickly. Obviously, every so often I might treat myself to a meal out, or I might eat lunch in town or buy a meal deal or something, which does add up to quite a lot. So it is helpful to have a budget for this. I try and keep mine to sort of under £15 a week. I often don't hit it, but it's nice to have that built in just in case you want to. My final tip is if you go to the supermarket in the evening, say sort of after 7 p.m, loads of the baked goods and just loads of stuff will be reduced. So I went to Morrison's last night and I will overlay the deals I got. They are amazing. Obviously all that stuff goes out of date on that day or the day after, so you need to know you're going to use it. But if it's bread or something, you can just freeze it. Make sure you just slice it before so you can take it out slice by slice. Absolute bargains, absolutely worth it, and you can find some really good stuff that you'd never try otherwise. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this has helped give you guys a sense of how to keep your costs down with a food shop and not waste food, and just generally gives you a sense of how much you might need to budget in to buy food each week. Thank you very much for watching. Bye!